So you lost 70 pounds. You did that partly by journaling. And what are some other things that you did that you can help with our audience who might be dealing with the same issues as, sort of the same issues as you?
Yeah. So when it comes to the weight that I've lost, and if you're mentioning like, what are some of the main things that I would recommend with just losing weight or just overcoming that pain? Is that what you're kind of getting at?
I think both, because they go
Okay.
hand in hand. If you lose the weight, it'll come back on if you haven't overcome the pain or dealt with the pain, right?
Yes.
And vice versa. The pain will remain if the food is out of control.
So I think that things that they can do right now, the major things, number one would be consider documentaries or books that can help, right? So for me, when I first got introduced to Fast Food Nation, that just completely shifted my mindset. And it really comes back to the mindset, finding things that are going to shift your mindset, open up you to things that you hadn't considered. And even documentaries like Fed Up, for example, that's one thing that I would recommend. Another thing that I would recommend is really just when it comes to food and weight loss is it's not as we make it into rocket science. There's a lot of confusion around food, but my number two would just be really consuming more whole foods. Find whole foods that you like. So if it's strawberries or pineapple, great, eat more of those things. And then, introduce things that maybe you're skeptical about. Like I have family members that, they won't touch quinoa with a stick, right? So it's like, go ahead, continue to eat rice, but hey, there's a lot of benefits to eating quinoa. So try something new, even things that you might be skeptical of, just trying new foods that maybe you've never had, because we all grew up in a kind of a box of what we had exposure to eating. So that'd be my number two, is just being open to trying new whole foods that you haven't had exposure to, and then eat more of what you already enjoy. I would say another tip that I would give on, just what people can change right now would be really eliminating the amount of ultra processed foods. And I know we hear it time and time again, but and it's not our fault, right? I think there's a recent study that was done that said that the adolescents and children that are under the age of 18 in the United States of America get 67% of their food consumption from ultra processed foods. So with that being the case, that goes to show that we have to respect the fact that that's how we grew up, and now you're growing out of it. And it kind of goes back to that. So those are like three main things that I would recommend, right? I would say, one, expose yourself to new documentaries and books that can help you grow. Two, be open to consuming more whole foods that you already enjoy, maybe ones that you've been kind of skeptical about trying. And then three would be truly doing your best to eliminate ultra processed foods. Now, we're human. There might be things that you have occasionally, but if your day is consisting of a lot of packaged foods and you have to read food labels constantly, that's something to take into consideration. Plus, it can be really fun to get creative in the kitchen and try to make new foods.
Your struggles lasted a while. They lasted 5 years or a little more. And speaking about number two, putting in more whole foods, I'm curious as to how you think because the trigger was you in the state that you were in, the coach saying something.
Yeah.
But then you continued, right, with your eating disorder, and depression came in, anxiety came in. How do you feel like those whole foods had a positive effect on really turning you around as a whole person, including not just losing the weight, but the depression and anxiety? Do you think they played a role?
I feel like over time, the whole foods played a role, because it allowed me to reignite my relationship with food. So I think during the process, it was really about falling back in love with food again, instead of food being this enemy that I don't understand. And with the healing process, with over that 5-year journey, it was gradual, right? So the depression stemmed from me feeling like it was never going to change. And in order for change to have taken place, it came down to me saying that I believed it was possible for myself. And I think that that ties to both people that are struggling with eating disorders and people who are just struggling within their weight loss journey in general, because it really comes back to you believing that it's possible for yourself to make that change. And then from there, it's about honoring, okay, what don't I know that I now need to figure out? do I need to get help? And that was my approach, right? I was like, okay, I need to get help. But after college, not having access to the luxuries that school had for me with a nutritionist and a sports psychologist, right? Seeking out those things on my own, those things were, $300 an hour for a session. And at that time for me, that wasn't affordable. So I had to take it upon myself. So with healing myself, it turned out to be okay. Trying out new foods, and figuring out the best ways to make those foods. And, that's also why I became a yoga instructor. It was to nurture that mind, body, spirit, and developing a meditation practice. Those little things I did on my own was to help kind of bring me back whole. Because, our school system doesn't teach us these things. So, that was just really a part of my journey. And even that's what ignited my passion to go to culinary school and become a plant-based chef. And then after that, I said, okay, I want to further my education in this. And I went to a program within Escoffier. It was a more accredited program where I learned even more knowledge about how to make foods actually taste good, because I think that was the key. How do I not deprive myself of the things that I enjoy? How can I use whole foods, prepare them in a way that actually is nourishing for my body with what my body needs, but also tastes good? So that was truthfully my approach to how I used whole foods to help with the depression and anxiety. And I'll say, I'm a really big believer that what we eat plays has a huge impact on how we think and how we feel and how our mind works. And I just feel like there's not enough studies done on that, personally, because there is a huge connection there. And I think that it's missing.
I agree with you totally. When I eat really well, my mood is just more even.